Welcome back to Girls Across the Pond.
Hello, darling. How have you been? I've
I have
missed
been
you.
good. How are
We have,
you?
s- I'm great. We have so much to talk about. I'm back in Colorado. You have moved. You're in your place of residence, and we got all sorts of things. If you've never joined us, we are a mother-daughter duo across the pond. You are living in England. I am living
Hmm.
in the US, and we get together and chat about everything moms and daughters do. So we're glad you're here. Welcome. Grab a cup of coffee, glass of water, glass of tea, and join us across the pond.
How have you been?
Oh my gosh, so good. I am back in Colorado. I feel like such a nomad. I was in Colorado, I was in Florida. I'm here. Where am I? Where is Ellen? Ellen is back in Colorado. We actually drove this time and came back to spend a couple months here for the summer, which is pretty nice. We just had a hurricane that
Hmm.
passed Murphy's Law. We move out there, and sure enough, the first hurricane of the season comes right by where we're living. We got some really bad wind there, but no damage, which is nice. The association we live with sent a little notification out that the grounds were checked and nothing was damaged. So that's good, but we missed it. We took off before that baby hit
Hmm.
town. So we're back in Colorado right now. How about
Well,
you, darling?
well, that's very nice. It's good to hear that you're safe and sound.
Safe and sound.
I'm well. There's been so many things that have
Do tell,
happened.
do tell.
Well, I am in my new place.
Yeah.
I've moved out of student accommodation into my new location with my flatmate. She's been gone for the past week, going back, like, she went back home for summer for a little bit to see some of her old friends and stuff. So I've just been vibing here on my own, which is fine. I'm introverted. I have been enjoying it. Um, and my brother just came up this week for a couple of days to Leeds to say hi, pop his head in, hang out together, which was just great.
Yeah.
Um, it Anytime I'm with him, I always forget. No, I'm always reminded every time I'm with him how extroverted he is
He
because it
really
reminds
is.
me we are like the two poles. Like I am like I know I'm introverted, but it's when I'm with extroverts that I really realize that I'm introverted. I'm like, holy crap. And he's very, very extroverted. So he was always like, "Oh yeah, let's go do something." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm worn." But like I wanted to hang out because, he wasn't here for long, but I was like really getting fatigued. So a lot of like nights we just like chilled, but we did stuff during the day, which was cool. So we played some tennis for about 2 hours, which was really, really fun.
Nice.
And that was great. And then we did go on this, it wasn't really a hike because there was no like incline to it. So it was more of a trail. We
Trail
just
walk.
kind of walked it down by the docks. There's like a canal that goes through Leeds. So we walked down by the water there, which he really enjoyed. We had a lot of prey. So
Pré Maché. I
yeah,
actually looked that up.
Pret prey.
No, I actually looked it up, and
I know you
uh,
sent it to me.
I did. I went on some videos, YouTube of employees, and they actually call that pret a manger. If you're going to say
Yeah.
manger, you better say pret. It doesn't make any sense to say pret a manger, but
Okay,
whatever.
you just counteracted yourself.
Why?
You said if you're gonna say manger, it makes no sense to not say pret. And then you said don't call it like pret a manger.
Okay, well, you know what I mean. If you're going to say a hard T, then don't say the French manger,
I
right?
think I don't I think in French it's pronounced but it's not enunciated. So the T is more of an asphyxiated stop than it is a T. So
Yeah.
it's like prêt à manger. I
Hmm.
think I'm not a native French speaker, so I couldn't tell you, but I think it's more of just like a harsh stop, which is where it gets that prêt à
Hmm.
manger, but I could be completely
Pret.
wrong. I don't think it's just pray.
Right. I think we're
Um,
saying it wrong. But I had learned in French, and what I learned in French was like teeny tiny. But I had learned that if there was a consonant, as we know it, at the end of a word, it's silent,
yeah, for the most part, I think that's the way it is.
which is why I would say pré-imagé.
Hmm.
But everybody there says prét-imagé.
Yeah, everybody here
Anyways,
just says pret. Anyways, we
and
had that a lot.
And Simon had they have the Christmas sandwiches out.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't go there a lot. But we walked in and they just had the Christmas sandwiches out, and I have never seen my brother so euphoric.
I know it's July.
Yeah.
And they had Christmas sandwiches. He sent me a Snapchat with a picture.
Yeah. And then yesterday, because today is Thursday that we're recording this, yesterday I had another Korean lesson with my Korean tutor.
How'd it
Excuse me.
go?
It was good. She had been gone. She took like a month hiatus from teaching just because she went back to South Korea for like some family event that she had. But she had to do, they have a 2 week quarantine incoming to the country. So she
Oh.
was only there for 2 weeks, but she had to do 2 weeks of quarantine too. So
Mhm.
she didn't teach for a month. So it had been over a month since we'd last spoken. And I was really nervous because as an introverted language learner, it's really hard for me to get speaking practice opportunities because I don't actively go and seek to like call other people for language exchange and anything. And it's just not really my thing. I'd rather text than call,
Of
which isn't
course.
speaking practice at that point. That's texting practice.
I think
Um,
that's most kids your age would rather text than call.
yeah, I don't know. I know quite a few people that are call oriented. I know tons of people that are call oriented, but
Is that right? Okay.
anyways, I was nervous because I hadn't done any sort of Korean speaking practice for over a month, but it was we would had talked quite a bit because we like to do she caters to like whatever the student wants, and she knows like when I first reached out to her I was like I really want to put an emphasis on speaking because I don't do that a lot, so if I have the opportunity to call somebody and talk, I want to talk.
Mhm.
And so we look at grammar and we do revisions and stuff, and I get homework and I fill it out and stuff, which is great and I love that, but we still do a lot of just casual speaking practice about what are you doing this weekend, like how many times do you, I don't know, go about learning Korean in a week? Oh, what are your hobbies? Oh, did you see that one K drama or whatever? So we do have like quite a bit of that language exchange, which is nice.
Did you talk about stir fries?
Stir fries.
Our last episode, you said if I don't have any reason to say the word stir fry, why am I learning stir fry? It
Oh,
was, I
which by
think,
the way is pokta.
hokta.
Have
Yeah,
I
you
said
said
that?
that
Yeah.
last time. I
Pokta.
find that whenever I do Duolingo, I mean, what is the thing in Russian that they keep talking about? Taxi. They keep enunciating the word taxi, which in Russian is taxi.
Oh, same
It's
in Korean, it's tekshi.
yeah, but they keep. Why are they bothering to tell me that? I don't know. I guess they figure if you're going to Russia, you won't have a rent a car, and so you'll need a taxi, and that's how you say it. But it's just a funny word to put at the top of the list of things you need to learn. Kind of like
Mm-hmm.
stir fry.
Mm-hmm.
You
Um,
said you wanted to do some catch up. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So this is a fun story just about things that are going on in my life, and well, we kind of talked on this on our own isolated call, which is why I want to bring it up, and then it branched into its own story. But I've been for anybody that like is up and dated on the memes and stereotypes of like people online, this will be very funny. But if you're not, you'll just be like, why is it funny? But I've been on Reddit a lot lately, and I told this to you. Reddit has a funny stereotype around it, but I actually have been really enjoying Reddit and just having like a lot of somewhat intellectual conversations with people online, as well as the fact that like so I'm really into Myers Briggs. We've been new, Joan. We got it. You're an INTJ. You're screaming it from the tops of the trees. Got it. Move on. Um, Anyways, I'm on a Reddit board for a whole bunch of Myers Briggs types. I'm on the Reddit subreddit for like the actual INTJ personality type. So there's like a little tag by my name that says I'm an INTJ. But the nice thing, one of the nice things about having the stereotype INTJ is there's a stereotype around that personality type that they're a little bit more cold and blunt.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I have that tag on Reddit, I don't really feel pressured to be like bright and
Nice.
perky online. Well, I was gonna say that, yeah, because that is part of it, but like online, because you can't see another person's face, text tone can be taken way out of context all the time, and
Oh
I've
yeah.
been victim on both sides of that spectrum where I've taken something out of context and I've also said something that was taken out of context.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to come across a lot more like excited and warm online than I am in person because I'm a little bit more concerned that somebody's going to take what I say the wrong way. Not
Right.
because I mean I don't want to offend them, but I just like want somebody to know what I'm talking about when I say something. So, but with that like I don't know, quote unquote stereotype following me around with the INTJ, there's like no pressure to be like warm and perky on Reddit. I can just use proper grammar in what I'm saying online and people will 100% just get it. And that's
Mhm.
just been very nice.
You
Um,
found your people.
yeah, anyway, my people are on Reddit. Um, anyways, I was on one of these Myers-Briggs boards, and it's one that's specifically for people who don't know what their type is and want to be typed, because answering questions to an online test or like multiple choice questionnaires, it's not very personalized. It's like, wow, do you like going to parties? Yes or no?
I
Do
know.
you think or do you feel? Do
Yeah.
you look at the past or the present? Wow, you, sir, are an ENFP, like based on those kind of questions.
Right.
So a lot of like they're very unreliable. So there's a subreddit where you can like fill out a questionnaire that's like really detailed, and then people on Reddit can look at it and analyze based off of your like actual paragraph responses, what type they think you are based off of your cognitive functions. And it's built around the cognitive function stack by Carl Jung, I believe. So it's based on um, wow, psychology. That was really hard for me to find the word for that apparently. But it's based off of psychological like analysis, which is like how that stemmed. But anyways, I was on one of those boards and I was helping type a couple people because I've been really into it, as we know. So I have a generally okay understanding of the cognitive functions and how they work and where you can see them in different people in different spots. So I've been trying to help type people online mainly out of boredom, and I find it fun because it's kind of like a puzzle that you're trying to solve. And I'm like, oh, let me figure out what you are. Okay, here's your FI and here's your SE or whatever it is. You must be an ESFJ or whatever. Um, but I was doing that, and somebody sent me a message privately on Reddit, and they were like, hey, um, you seem to like know a fair amount of typing, is what it's called, like typing. And they're like, I'm part of a Discord server that helps type people. Would you be interested in joining? And I was like, okay, sure. But he was like, yeah, I'm on this Discord server that's like made to help type people. And you seem to know a fair amount of Myers-Briggs like cognitive function stacks. Would you be interested in just coming and helping to type? No worries if no, like kind of thing. And I was like, sure, yeah, why
Oh.
not? So he added me to the Discord server, and I, was there. There's like over like 300 something people on it. And I talked to the person that like ran the entire server, and like we had a conversation, and they just like let me be a typist. So now I'm on this Discord server helping type people, and it is so crazy cool. I'm really into it right now. But the people, the typists, the other typists, first of all the typists are volunteers. It's not a paid gig or anything. We're just there to help type people. And people just show up to the Discord looking to be typed, and they just like wait in the queue. And then a typist will get around with them, have a whole bunch of conversations. And then the typists like talk with each other and discuss based off of their answers. And we'll discuss like in conversation where they use what like functions and stuff. And like I thought I was pretty well educated on it. I definitely know more than the average person does, like significantly more than the average person. But
Yes, you
I was
do.
like watching a whole bunch of these guys do it, and they were flying through it. And I was like, wow, oh my God, I never thought about it that way. Oh, like this is, oh yeah, you're right. You can see this function here. And I didn't even see that or whatever. But it, yeah, it's just been really cool. And I've been enjoying spending my time doing that instead of like watching a mindless TV show. It's been
Hmm.
really fun, because it's like solving puzzles. It really is. That's just, but I will say, doing that has made me significantly question my own type in the aspect of somebody will say something and I'll like be like, yeah, I really relate to that. Like there was one person that I was typing and they had a fair amount in common with me when it came to their thought process. And they were going through all this stuff that they were talking about, and they ended up being typed, we agreed, as an ESTJ. And I was like, oh, that's very far from what I am. But
Hmm.
I was surprised that I had that much like in common with what they were saying. And obviously, stereotypes are stereotypes, and not every type belongs to their stereotype. And we're isolating Myers-Briggs from cognitive functions, and we're assigning them functions, not a Myers-Briggs type. But we were looking at like all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, this has made me question my own type. Like, am I just typing myself based off of what I actually do, or am I typing myself off of what I think I do and would like to do but don't do?
Hmm.
So it's been a crazy.
I have to say, as a parent, this is a mother talking to a daughter here, and you can edit this out if you want. But I do think that you oftentimes will settle for something that's comfortable because you doubt yourself on all sorts of things, and I think that's normal for people to do that. But I think you tend to find a comfort zone and go, well, yeah, this is where I am, and I'm there, and don't bother me, I'm there. And as a parent, I look at you and I think you are so multifaceted. You can do so many things. And one of those things is you can work a room. You can go in there and be one of the most intellectually stimulating, interesting people in a room, but you sell yourself on, yes, I'm an introvert and you're comfortable in my your little introvert box. But I
Mm-hmm.
think, there's, and you've said before that you had quite a few friends who, back when you were marching, that would say you're not an introvert at all. You're a total extrovert. And you classify that as,
Well,
yeah, depends who I'm around, right?
here, no, 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 no. That's I
No, no, no,
don't
no, no.
classify that. I'm gonna correct you. I don't classify myself off of being introverted and extroverted based off of who I'm around. I definitely don't. I when it comes to first of all, social introversion and cognitive introversion are very different things. When we're looking at cognitive functions and the function stacks of when you would be determined as an ESTJ or an ISTJ or whatever it is, the I and the E doesn't mean, okay, I'm an I, so I like staying at home on the weekends, and the E doesn't mean I like going to parties on the weekends. That's not what it is. It just
Mhm.
means that the first function in your function stack is an outwards expressed function. So, for example, if we look at an ENTJ as opposed to an INTJ, the ENTJ will have an extroverted thinking function, and ENTJs are really commonly socially introverted, as in they aren't extroverts. They don't go out and like seek those opportunities, but their thinking process is an extroverted thinking process that involves engaging in the world, and that's their first function. So they would be defined as a cognitive extrovert
Mhm.
versus a cognitive introvert with somebody with an introverted first function. That's the difference there. But I will say, when it comes to me flip flopping between like some people being like, no, Joan, you're really like you're confident, you're like you have a plan in store, you know what you want, you're very logical, and then other people being like, you are so quiet. I was thinking about that because it was part of that whole identity crisis because I was like I was like, is extroverted thinking my first function?
What identity crisis?
My identity
Did I
crisis
miss
of
that?
my identity crisis of am I mistyped? Have I mistyped myself? That
Oh,
identity
okay.
crisis. Because
Like,
I was thinking
what?
like maybe perhaps my extroverted thinking because as an INTJ I do have the extroverted thinking trait. And I was like maybe extroverted thinking is my first function and I would be more of an ENTJ where I am an introvert but I have an extroverted focused cognitive function. I that crossed my mind. But when it comes to socially introverted and extroverted, when it's social, I'm quiet unless there is an overlying purpose for me not to be. In the aspect of, okay, I'm at school and I'm here to learn, I'm here to do a task to like for example, let's look at the conservatory that I went to from like ages 9 to 18. I was there to learn music and yeah, like making friends is fun and it's fun to like have a good time and be enjoyable and other people to like engaging with me and stuff like that's a plus.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I was there to learn and hone in on my craft.
Mhm.
So there was a reason for me to be socially extroverted in that scenario. Like to learn, I had to be socially extroverted. Or at school now in college, when I'm focused on running the group task, I was like, okay, I am. This sounds rude, but I don't care. I am the most like suited to be the leader in this stance. I'm the most action oriented out of the people in this group. I'll step up and take this leader role and help plan and get the ball rolling. That's kind of how I see it. Versus if you look at me like at church or something where it's really just a social interaction and it's not there's no overlying point. Like the reason I'm there is not to make friends, but the reason I'm there is also not because I need to get something done. I'm significantly more quiet there because I don't have a reason that I necessarily need to put my energy into the social aspect of things,
Mhm.
which is why socially I classify myself as an introvert. Plus, just the fact that I prefer being alone, I think makes me a social introvert. But that was the long, explicit tangent on the fact that cognitive introversion and extroversion and socially introverted and extroverted are very different things.
Yeah, those stacks that you showed me, I thought really were. It's funny that they come at the end of Myers-Briggs once you figure out your little type, and then you start looking at the stacks, and those are much more applicable and really, really put things into perspective. Like you say, the introvert and extrovert kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's
Suddenly,
funny.
it just all makes sense.
It's really funny because the 16 personalities, so the 16 personalities test that you see online that like everybody takes and they get a little character that's like a little color that they all like and they're like I'm this letter like wing A or T or whatever. It's
Hmm.
it's fun and it gives you very surface level Myers-Briggs, but it was invented and created that Myers-Briggs was created by a mother-daughter duo actually, fun fact.
Yes, that
Um,
was.
and it's based off of the cognitive functions, but that test does not explicitly seek out the cognitive functions. So very frequently, people on the 16 personalities test will get mistyped as an intuitive type over a sensing type because they're like, well, I don't always break the like I don't always follow the rules. Okay, they're like boom intuitive when it's not like that, or like somebody would be like, yeah, I worry about the future, which would be intuitive is about future focused, big picture. So people saying I worry about the future, they're like, oh well, that's intuition. But if it's a worry or a fear, then it's classified as a lower type, and that would in result mean more of a sensing type. So like there's a leeway that you can't just define with okay, yes, I agree with this. No, I don't agree with this, which is why it's sort of it's nice on a surface level if you don't want to do any more exploring on it, but if you actually are interested in learning in the cognitive functions and trying to figure that out and you want to read on shadow types and like what your blind spot type is and all this crazy stuff that I'm now exploring and opening my mind to now that I've become a typist on this Discord server, like don't start with that. That was my whole tangent.
If you're just joining us for the first time, she's a music major. She's not a psychology major.
You
But you
know
wouldn't know it from
what
what you
was
just heard.
what was so great on Reddit? I was on the INTJ board. No surprise. That's probably where I spend most of my time because there's a lot of people that just like intellectually stimulating things. They just like to find stuff out. And one of the posts on there was just a question discussion board and it was like, what is everybody studying in their free time at the moment? And there were just like all these responses of people being like quantum physics or like somebody's like computer tech science. They're like, it has nothing to do with my job, but I'm doing that. And I commented and I was like, oh yeah, I'm studying Korean in my free time. And now I'm going through the psychoanalysis of the cognitive function stacks and like working on typing people and I'm also like really into like American history right now and looking at those you know
Mm.
events and all this stuff. And a whole bunch of people responding. They're like, wow, like language learning, that's really cool. And like all this stuff. And then it was just like really fun. And it was really nice to know that there are other people online that like learning things and going in depth because a lot of not to roast any of my friends, I love my friends, but I do that the most out of all my friends.
Oh, yeah, you do. I think, these years in college, it's so important that you guys both went off to college. And if there's any parents listening and looking for advice, it's doing college in your own city where you grew up and everything. It's great because certainly a lot more affordable. And it's hard to let your kids go. I mean, you're 4, 5, 6,000 miles. I don't want to look at how far you are away because I don't want to know. But you're overseas and studying, and that's really, really hard. But I have to tell you, going out for those few years while you're still under our net in the safety net of your parents are here to help and blah, blah, blah. But really starting to stretch your knowledge and learn from other people and experience new things, man. This is such a great time in your life. And I'm so glad you're doing that, even though it's a little bit of a distraction from music right now, but you're on summer break. So why ever not? Um, it's just nice to see you exploring and finding that there's other people there that are like you, because I think when we all go to high school, our high schools are very small. Even though you went to a really big one, it was still pretty small, and it was hard to find other people in your groove. And that makes you feel like you're very, very alone in the world, and you're not at all. There's people out there like you who are doing exactly the same things, and um, you'll make some good friends that way.
I do think it's really interesting that if we're going off cognitive functions, all of my closest friends, like ever, that I can think of, yeah, have been typed as a feeling type. I
Mm-hmm.
have never had another really, really close friend that was typed as a thinking type, and I'm a thinking type.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I consider all my friends really, really smart, they supposedly, because I don't know if maybe they're mistyped or whatever, but supposedly they all have the higher function of feeling over thinking, and so I find that interesting that I also experienced that. Oh, none of my friends also really like learning about some of the things that I really enjoy learning about, kind of dilemma. But I mean, I learn a lot from them, so.
Do you suppose that friendships, somebody has to be a thinker in there? I mean, if you're two, um, I'm sorry, don't you feel that there should be a feeler in there? If you have two thinkers, I mean, that's kind of like the cast of Big Bang Theory, isn't it? I mean, there's no feelers there. They're all just, working
you know,
cognitively.
what I think is interesting is that everybody in our family, so I've made everybody in our family take this test, the 16 personalities version. So, there could be mistyping, and I'm currently, now that I spent the weekend with my brother, trying to analyze what his type is, and I don't know if his type is his type because he's kind of got hands in all buckets. So I'm trying to psychoanalyze him without telling him. Shh. Anyways, everybody in our family but me is a feeling type. You have been typed as an ISFJ. My brother is typed as an ENFJ, and our dad is typed as an INFJ. So I'm the only T in the family, and I think it's so funny how many times at least everybody in the family has at least told me you need to think, you need to look at what the other person is feeling right now.
Yeah,
When
look
I
at it
do
from the
stuff and I
other
get
point of
mad at
view.
people, and I'm like, mm.
Mm.
And you're like, put yourself in the other person's shoes, kind of thing. That's a very, very hard thing for me to do because, well, I'm going to validate it by cognitive functions and psychoanalysis. I'm using facts and logic to back up my point, like a thinking type would do. But my supposedly in my in my cognitive function stack, I'd have introverted feeling, which is an inward, morally valued. How do I feel about this, and not extroverted feeling. How does the world feel about this? How does the room How does everybody else feel about this? Kind
Yeah.
of more people pleasing, if I'm going to oversimplify it, kind of thing. So even when I am emotional, because I do think I'm an emotional person, just not outwardly emotional, like I'm more concerned with how I feel and react to a situation, and then it's like, oh, I have to pay attention to other people.
Mm.
Nah. It's something I struggle with, but now that I'm aware of that, hopefully I can work on it.
Yeah, I think all of these kind of things that you're studying are good because you do learn about other people. I certainly am
Mm.
concerned about other people. If they're not comfortable in the room, I want to make them comfortable. Uh,
Yeah, that you know
like,
why? Because you're typed as an FJ, which
because
would
I'm a
mean you have
feeler.
extroverted feeling.
Yeah, I don't like people being uncomfortable. Like we had talked before about awkward silence. To me, awkward silence means somebody's uncomfortable and they don't want to talk, or they don't feel like they can talk, or they don't feel like they have a place to talk. And I want to make sure that they feel like they have a voice in the room somewhere. So I will reach out and
Interesting.
make sure that they will feel comfortable.
I don't I mean, I don't go out of my way to make sure people are uncomfortable, but I don't think I actively I don't think I actively care. Like, it sounds blunt, but I mean, to be frank, that's true. Like, I
Oh,
do care. Like, if somebody came to me and was like, I'm really upset, can I talk with you? I'd be like, yeah, of course.
oh
I'd be like,
yeah, yeah,
totally, let's sit down and talk. Even if
yeah.
it doesn't involve me, if it does involve me, yeah, you can come and talk to me and we'll, whatever it is, I'll listen. But in like a group setting, if we're, like let's say we're working on a school project, I'm I lean more towards this is what's beneficial for the group. This is the best plan
Yes.
of action and this is the best course to take to execute what we're working towards over, well, everybody else was kind of leaning this way, so maybe not. And if everybody vetoes me, then that's one thing, but I'll advocate for like, no, this is probably the best course of action and this is why
Yeah.
towards the group, even if not everybody agrees. I'll try and persuade and be like, this is probably what the best course of action would be if we're trying to execute X. It should go like this.
Now, if you have a group and you're working like that, and you've explained why you want to do what you want to do, and everybody's buying into it except maybe one or two people, and they sort of pull away, do you work to pull them back in, or do you just let them do their thing? Because
If
I
they
would pull them back in.
if they didn't think, like, if they were like, I don't know if that's the best course of action, I would say, what's tripping you up about this? Not like in an accusatory, like, what's your problem? But like, where are you seeing the issue so we can
Mm-hmm.
work on it? Like, where is it not either like if I'm teaching somebody and they don't get a concept and I'm like, where are you tripping up? Let's
Mm-hmm.
focus on that kind of thing. If they're like, I'm like, where do you see the flaw in this plan so we can work around it and adjust to it? But if they're just like, oh, maybe my point wasn't as good, I would
Yeah,
say,
it's
yeah, I think your point isn't as good. But I'll be like, okay, well then let's work on this, bring everybody in, divide and conquer the tasks, and let's go.
mm, I would want to make sure they felt valued in some way and bring them
I
back in.
see the give. Man, maybe I, I'm a poor leader, but I do like
No,
the value is not coming up with the idea. If that's the
no,
best
not
course of action,
necessarily.
I think, you know, I see a lot of group tasks as we are working towards blank. The
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, that's what needs to get done. If you
Right.
have a problem about it getting done, then that's your problem. This needs to get done. That's how I feel. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
it's the same way, like when people don't contribute in a group project, I get really frustrated and I'll do the work for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, if you're not going to do the work, that's fine. I'll do it
Right.
for you and
Mm-hmm.
we'll get it done.
Right. Because they've
Over
completely
them,
checked out.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I like I actually had this conversation with my flatmate because she's more of a feeling type. And I was mentioning that at one time in the school year, I had a group project where there was one person who wasn't contributing to the project at all, but they'd still show up to class. And they mentioned something about their sleep cycle just being like completely out of whack and them just like not really having a lot of motivation to like watch the lectures and stuff online. And I was telling this to my flatmate just in casual conversation, and I was like, I'm getting really frustrated because they're not carrying their weight
Mm-hmm.
and they seem to just be sleeping through everything. And it's really frustrating because if all they're doing is sleeping over doing the task, then I just see them being lazy.
Right.
Like that was my judgment on the thing. And she was like, okay, but think about this from their perspective. What if there's something they're going through right now and they might not want to like, go do this because they're feeling weighed down by something else externally happening in their life. And I was like, I did not even consider that as an option.
Yeah.
I just saw it as like no work ethic. Like
Yeah.
that's
Which
how I
it might be. It might be. You
it
might
could
not be
easily
wrong with
be.
that. But until
Yeah.
you reach out and ask and see, then you won't know.
See, more my thing is like my attempt to include people is giving them tasks. Like that sounds weird.
No,
Like even if
that's
I'm
one
not the
option.
leader, even if I'm not the leader, like if somebody's pulling away from the group, I will give them the option to come back into the group by doing something. So
There you
I'm like,
go.
great. Everybody in this group, like let's say we're doing a business task. I'm like, great. You've worked on the marketing and you've worked on the finance part. How about you research our competitors and find out what our competitors are doing in this situation? Like, I'll give them a task so that they
Sure.
have an opportunity to make up for it. And then if
Right.
they don't do that, then I'm like, okay, get out of the group.
Yeah.
that's
Be
that's that's
gone.
that's
Be
an over
gone.
exaggeration, but I get more frustrated the more opportunities I give them and the more they fall short,
Mhm.
because it's kind of like if you fool me once, shame on me, or other way around. If you fool me once, shame on you. If you fool me twice, shame on me. I'm
That's
like,
right.
if I keep giving you all these opportunities and you keep falling short, then I have
Mhm.
to make up for them.
Right.
So I'm only going to give you a limited amount of chances because I don't want to have to overcompensate last minute
Yeah.
when I could just do it myself.
That's right.
I swear I'm a good person. Anybody listening on first
Oh,
impression, I'm not a jerk.
no, you're a
I
great person.
We're talking about me planning out situations to try and execute a goal. And I am very goal oriented as a person.
It's hard. I get tripped up with that as well at work and
Mm-hmm.
when you're working in group projects and things. I prefer to work
Mm-hmm.
on my own because I'm like you. I just want to get it done kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really nice transition because today I wanted to talk about intuitions
Mm-hmm.
and our gut feelings and how we, should I reach out to this person or should I just let it go and whatever. And I have, I think maybe because I have a little hair in my face, maybe because I'm a feeler, I don't know, but I certainly feel very in touch with my intuitions. And the more I talk about them, the more I find that most people don't have the degree that I do. But I know I've mentioned in the past that sometimes I'm just walking through my day and I'll think, oh, I just feel something going on, and it's hard to explain. And I came back, we're in Colorado right now, and one of my favorite books is here in the house, and I have to go find it, and it's Eat Pray Love. I don't know if you've ever
Mhm.
read that book. Oh, so
You've
good.
told me about it
Oh
many
my
many a
gosh,
time.
it is such a good book. And that woman was certainly very intuitive, and I've had a couple feelings from time to time, and you just sort of, you hear this voice in your head sort of guiding you. um, or sometimes it's just a feeling, and usually when I get these things, and they happen not twice a year, but they happen sometimes a couple times a day. I feel things a lot. Where you're just walking around and you think, oh, so and so is going to call. And the other day, I actually thought you were going to call me, and I grabbed my phone and I looked at it and I waited a sec, and you didn't call. And I thought, oh, that's weird. I felt like you were going to call me. Um, but I'll just stop because you just feel something coming, and it happens a lot. And apparently that doesn't happen to a lot of people. And you had
Mhm.
said before that that hadn't happened, but it's starting to, you're feeling it a little bit more.
I experience gut intuition in a different way. The only way I feel it, like a gut intuition, the way you're talking about, is when it comes to eating foods. Because
Mhm.
sometimes I just get a bad feeling that it might have a peanut in it. For anybody that doesn't know, I have a life threatening peanut allergy. If I eat a
Mhm.
nut, I'll just go into anaphylactic shock.
Mhm.
But sometimes I'll just get a gut intuition that something maybe isn't the best for me, and I'll look at the label, and sometimes it won't even say that it has anything or is made in a factory, but I'm still like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Follow the
If
gut.
I just
Follow the gut for
if
sure.
I get a bad feeling, sometimes, who knows, maybe it's just a weird gut feeling. Maybe I ate something funny and it's a weird gut feeling. But
Mhm.
like it I'm less inclined to eat it after I get that feeling. But that's probably the only time that I get really strong gut intuitions in that way.
Mhm.
I more get gut intuitions from like a it sounds weird, like a deduction process. I don't know. I think I'm a little more observant of the world than
Mhm.
people than like the average person. Not like a
Oh,
ton more. I'm not like freaking Sherlock where I'm like, you know,
no. But
deducing
you're
all these
very,
things about people.
you're analytical. That's what
Yeah,
you're feeling. Yes,
that's
yes, for
that's the
sure.
right word to express it. I'll look at something and I don't even know how, but I'll look at something and I start at A and then suddenly I'm at Z and I'm just like, oh, so this means this or
Mhm.
something. And it happened a lot more in the recording studio this past year. And that's how I was like looking back and realizing it. But it would be a lot of things where I just, I was on a lecture and we'd be like going through, how to record stuff or how the sound wave works or something. And they'd ask a question and I'd just instantly answer. And they hadn't gotten to that like part. They were just kind of like asking to see if people knew. And I'd answer and like a couple of times they'd be like, well, how do you know? And I'd be like, well, it just makes sense that it would like that.
Yeah.
And I kind of got like a very light slap on the wrist because I still knew, but they were like, you should know how you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it's like almost like when that happens, because that happens quite frequently, almost when that happens it's like my brain was ahead of the thought. So it's like
Yeah.
I got to A to Z, but I haven't quite worked out how I got there. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not that quick. But sometimes I
It's
get feelings. There was a day back when you were still in high school here that it was snowing and you were coming back from the conservatory, and I just had a gut feeling about the freeway, and it wasn't even about you driving, it was just about the freeway. And so I called you or text you or something. I alerted you, and I just don't take the freeway home tonight because I just had this really weird feeling about the freeway.
mm-hmm.
And I don't remember how you got home or whatever, but
Must have been side streets.
yeah, you ended up taking side streets, and it turned out that there was a big accident on the freeway. And whether that meant you were going to be in that accident or not, um, or
We'll never
it was
know.
just a feeling that, hey, there's something going on there. And I didn't look at an app. I just had a feeling, don't go on the freeway. And
Mm-hmm.
I I had a feeling back when I was pregnant with you, actually. And this
If
is the
you
story about.
cry,
I know I might. I don't know. I cry a lot.
oh.
Um, this is a story about 9/11. I had my first kid, Simon, and he was only 5 months old when we got pregnant with you. Because fabulous. And so the second time I got pregnant, we wanted another kid, not quite so fast, but um, when I first found out I was pregnant, I had just a really, really strong barrier feeling like I'm not going to be the mother of two children. And it wasn't the feeling of I'm not going to have this child or I'm going to miscarry this child or whatever. It was the feeling that I will not be the mother of two children. And it was really strong. And you were like, I was like 4 months along with you, going on 5 months, and I was still like not bonding with you at all. I was feeling you kick and everything, and I still was like, I am not going to be the mother of two children. And we had planned a trip to New York when Simon was about 10 months old, and we went out, and we have a lot of family there, and we spent a Sunday evening, I think it was, at a big family barbecue. And one of my cousins said, "Oh, you guys are planning to go into the city," which we were planning to do that week. And she said, "Let me just drive you in there. It's late on a Sunday night and there won't be a lot of traffic, and I'll drive you around so you can really see where you want to go." And that was great. We drove into the city and walked around. We kind of went to Rockefeller Plaza and went down to Chelsea Piers and all that stuff. We drove by the World Trade Center and looked up at that, and that was all great. And so we kind of had a plan of action of what we wanted to do. And originally, our plan was to go into the city very, very early, have breakfast, go up to the top of the World Trade Center, look around, get some pictures, and then go down to Rockefeller Plaza and try to get on the Today Show. Big goal for New York City to go be on the Today Show. And so that was the plan. But on Monday night, we went to set our alarm to go in on the following morning, which was Tuesday. And for some reason, I told my husband, I said, I didn't have a gut feeling about this, but I just said, I'm really tired. Let's not go in early. I don't want to go up the World Trade Center or anything like that. Let's just go in after the morning traffic and maybe get in there around 10 a.m. or so and do our thing. So we decided to do that. And we woke up around the 8 o'clock hour. And that was the morning of September 11th. When, if we had gone in early, we may or may not, I don't know, have been on the top of the building at that time, because that's certainly where we had planned to be. And then, that whole week was just mayhem. It was horrible, horrible to be in New York City at that time when that was happening. We actually lost two members of our family, extended members of our family passed away. One was a fireman, one was a policeman. Oh, awful. But we ended up going out to Martha's Vineyard and kind of holding our heads low. And we went out to Nantucket, and that was all great and stuff. And we finished, we came back like a week later, we came back to LA where we were living at that time.
Okay, so to
So, yeah,
summarize the story, because she's emotional,
I'm an emotional mess.
basically, she was coming home into LA. I kicked, and she was like, "Whoa, I'm gonna have this kid."
I'm going to have this kid. And yeah,
And
we
here
all
I
know
am, 19 years later.
it ended very well. So yeah, I get feelings like that a lot. When we were just driving home to Colorado, we kept stopping at all these different places, and it was hot, and I was wearing shorts, and I didn't really have shoes on until I got out of the car. I threw some flip flops on, and we kept stopping because we have our dog with us.
This was recently, right?
It's just like
On the way
last
back
week,
to
yeah.
Colorado. Okay.
Yeah, and we kept getting out at all these different stops, and we drove through New Orleans, which was great. I'll have to tell you about that. And then we went through Dallas, and then we came up through New Mexico and up the southern route to come into Colorado Springs. And one of the stops I got out, I must have gotten out 20 times. This stop I got out and I thought, ooh, watch out for rattlesnakes. And I just had this really strong feeling to watch out for rattlesnakes. And so I looked down, and sure enough, there was one right by my foot, like about an inch away from my foot. Big fat thing. Big pet snake right by my foot. But had I not had that feeling, I probably wouldn't have looked down. I might have stepped on him. Who knows? But I had that feeling right as I got out. Watch out for rattlesnakes. So
That's almost like a superpower.
I don't
Honestly,
know what
it is. It's crazy. I think that like the fact that you're so in tuned to that is like crazy cool.
Yeah.
When
the other Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, when you like think of memories in your head, like of memories of past events, do you like often, even just like any memory, like recall what you felt when like at that moment when you were in that memory? Like, because you were talking about that past story with 9/11, and you were like, yeah, I get emotional every time.
Oh man, yeah. That
Or
one was
like,
really strong.
or like you remember like what things smelt like or what things tasted like or something, like in a lot of memories.
Probably. I don't know. I'll have to pay attention. I don't connect with them that much. And it's more the feeling. I had a really weird feeling. We didn't talk about this before. and I don't know if we're running too long, but this was a really weird feeling. I don't know that I'm that emotional, but I certainly feel connected to the universe. And I know that sounds very bogus, and some people might tune us out with that. But there was a book a long time ago called The Secret that was they marketed
Secret.
itself yeah, they marketed itself on, if you want to make a lot of money, you need to read this book, and you need to think positively, and you always need to picture money, and money will come to you,
Oh, like
whatever.
manifesting?
Yeah, a little bit,
I
but
have a
here's,
side tangent on manifesting.
I had a thing that happened probably, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years ago now, where there was a person that I had seen, and we kept crossing paths. And you've had this before, where you just keep running into these people, or you see them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I just kept running into this person and seeing this person, and I'd be driving and I would see their car, and so it was really weird. I had taken a trip to California for a company I work for in business, and I drove to the Colorado Springs airport. And I don't usually fly out of the Springs airport, but it's great. And you drive in, and it's straight and it's very small. And this is relevant. And there was like little beams of rocks and planters, and then you go off to the side and there's some more parking, and then you go further out and there's another beam and there's more parking spots. And I was driving in, it was in July, and I remember there was a thunderstorm coming in, and I thought, oh, I need to get in the building fast, because thunderstorms in Colorado, if you have never been here, include hail and lightning. So
Yeah.
they're pretty nasty. So this, I could see this storm coming in as I was coming into the parking lot. And so I drove in, and I drove by the rocks and stuff, and I parked my car, and I didn't really pay attention to where I parked, but I have a pretty good memory for those kind of things. So I just sort of paid attention that I was by the rocks, and I grabbed my carry-on and I darted into the building as fast as I could, because sure enough, the skies opened up, the flights were delayed, it was awful. So I went in, did my trip, came back a couple days later, and I landed at the airport at about 11:30, and the
At
Springs
night
is
or in the morning?
at night, and the Springs is really small and quick, and so I was in the parking lot by like 11:45 from 11:30 landing. And I got out to the parking lot. I thought, oh, I don't really remember where I parked, because I ran in so fast. And so I do remember the rocks, and so I went over to the second side of the rocks, which is, this is important to the story in case it seems irrelevant. And I walked up the aisle, and at that time I was driving my little Honda, which is a gold car with a little tire on the back, so it's pretty obvious to see. And I walked up the aisle where I thought I was, and I was hitting my little, well, buzzer thing, and the car was not beeping. And so I thought, okay, well, I probably parked on the next aisle. So I walked down the next aisle, and it wasn't there. And I thought, buzzing, no, no, no. And I thought, well, I could have sworn I walked over the rocks, the beam of rocks with my, in fact, I remember walking over because I drug my suitcase with me. So I walked up that aisle again, and I was hitting the buzzer, looking around left and right. It's dark. Nobody else is out there. I would hear my car if it beeped, and it didn't. And then I thought, well, maybe it's further out. And so I went out to the next part, and it wasn't there. And I walked back down, and I walked up the aisle, and I thought, this is really weird. I'm pushing the button. I'm thinking, did I not lock the car? Is my battery dead? That's probably why I'm not hearing it, because I know my car is right here somewhere. Can't find it. So I walked over the rocks thinking, well, maybe I didn't walk over the rocks. And so I walked up another aisle, the one closer to the terminal, not there. I'm looking both ways, hitting the buzzer, not there. And I did this probably 4 or 5 times down each aisle, hitting my buzzer. I can't find the car. So I do remember that when I parked it, it was facing the mountain, facing Pikes Peak at the time. So I was standing in an aisle, and I called home, and I woke up dad in the middle of the night and said, I think my car's been stolen. I don't know where this is. And he's like, that's weird. So I said, well, let me just walk up and down one more time and see if I can find this car. This is crazy. And he's like, okay, in the middle of the night, doesn't want to come downtown. So I hung up my phone, and I had that feeling, one of these feelings come over me, and it was a voice, and it said, look behind you. And it was
You
really
heard
strong.
a voice say, look behind you?
I heard this voice say, look behind you, or I felt this voice saying, look behind you. And so I turned around, and do you know what was right behind me?
A giant monster.
Yes.
A
No,
giant spider. The
that
car.
person, that person's car that I had kept crossing with, just kept
What?
hitting.
There was no person you mentioned. What person?
No, in the beginning, I said, I crossed paths with this person quite a few times, and I'd see their car and whatever. I would just see them all the time, like bumping into this person that I didn't know, but I recognized because I kept running into this person. I was
Uh-huh.
standing right in front of this person's car. I can't find my car, and I'm hearing a voice telling me to turn around, and I look, and there's their car. I'm thinking, that's so weird. And so I sort of backed away because I'm thinking, this is a really weird thing. Why would I hear this voice saying, look behind you? And their car was there. That's weird, right? That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm freaking out. And so I walked down the other aisle, walked over the rocks and walked down the other aisle. I hit my buzzer and my car, beep, beep, beep. This is the aisle I have walked down 3 or 4 times already. And my car is right there. Did I walk by my car 4 or 5 times? What
Most
happened?
of the time. Well, what probably happened is you were out of range when you hit the button on the aisle, and then you hit it. Well, I mean, were you actively just like walking down, pushing it this fast?
Yes, I was. Not the first time, because the first time I thought, oh, I'm parked down this aisle and I was facing the mountain and it was pretty obvious. And my car is a gold Honda CRV with a tire
Mm-hmm.
on the back. It's pretty easy to spot that car. It's not like a black SUV like my Acura was like impossible to find because everybody has black SUVs. It was an easy car to find. I walked by my car 4 or 5 times. How
Yeah,
could
I know
that
that's not
be?
like you. I was gonna say like what could have probably happened
Weird.
is you were walking and got within range of the car, but like you hit it right before you got in range of the car, and then were walking and then hit it as soon as like right as you got out of range. Like that could have happened. Poor luck, but
I don't know. I
I
seem
don't
to
know.
remember I was at the end of the aisle and I hit it and I saw my car like 3 or 4 up and then the lights flashed and everything and went off. But the thought that I had actually walked by my car when I was looking for it in the middle of the night when no one else is there, it's like quarter after midnight by this time. I've walked up and down so many aisles, and yet there was a sound or a voice or a feeling, look behind you and there's this person's car who we keep hitting, we keep crossing paths. It's just weird, weird
Hmm.
situation. So yeah, I get those.
You
I don't
know,
know what to do.
one time that I had a real gut intuition that you reminded me of when you said the Colorado Springs airport and cars is I had a friend who went out, um, I don't know, to California or something. Um, and he took an Uber to the airport, so he didn't have a car, so he asked if I could pick him up on his return. But he landed at like 11 midnight, like
Mm-hmm.
pretty late.
I remember that.
Um, so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go pick you up at the airport. That's fine. That's no big deal. And I took my dog with me. So Mel Bell was sitting in the passenger seat, and I went down to drive down to the airport to pick him up. And I was driving, and I was literally just turning out of my neighborhood cul-de-sac, and that was when I got a really big gut feeling. And
Oh,
I had a green light. I had a green turning arrow, and I was like, look both ways. And I looked both ways, and as soon as I did, there was just a car speeding towards me. And I slammed on my brakes because if I didn't, he would have T boned me right
mm-hmm.
like where the driver's seat was. I probably, based on how fast he was going, could have been at least significantly injured, if not killed on impact.
Yeah.
Um, I slammed on the brakes so hard, poor Melody flew from the passenger seat into the foot compartment, like into the little foot control,
Aw.
because I braked so hard. And
Mm-hmm.
that's probably one of the only times I've really gotten like a gut intuition of something. I was like, I, I typically generally will look at least like somewhat glance at like when I go through an intersection. But I had like a like make sure you check both ways when I had a green arrow, not just a green light, I had a green arrow to
Yeah.
turn. And I was like, maybe I should triple check. And I looked up and sure enough there's a car speeding towards me. He just ran the light. It was
Yeah.
like midnight, so
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Those are the feelings. You just feel like look both ways. Why? But you follow those feelings because they're usually right. And sometimes they're not,
mm-hmm.
like the other day when I thought you were going to call and you didn't. I know. Okay.
Yeah, but no harm, no foul.
Yeah. I'll call her. Hey, how you doing? You thinking about me? Cause I'm thinking about you. I don't know.
Your
Just weird.
ears burning.
I know. Yeah. Intuitions. I think, they're interesting, especially if you're very in tuned with yourself and with the universe and you start to feel things, because
Mm.
I have them all the time.
Mm.
I remember this that um
Mm,
that
yes,
first
I remember
Friday.
that.
I know. That first Friday when I actually told Dad before that was going to happen. They always had little giveaways at the
Oh,
door.
yeah, I do
You
remember
get
this story.
yeah, you come in and they hand you a little ticket, a little raffle ticket to get some prizes or whatever. I never won those. Whatever. I get my little glass of wine and go sit. And we were sitting down and they were giving away a ticket for something, and I looked at Dad and I said, "Oh, he's going to pull my name." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Just wait." And sure enough, it was Ian Ferguson. He put his hand in the thing and he goes, "Ellen Phillips." And I thought, "Yep, there it is." And Dad was like, "How did you know that?" I thought, "I don't know. I just knew he was going to pull my. I could feel it. I could feel it."
What if it's your mind? Well, no, there's no way you could. I was gonna say, what if it's your mind just deducing all the stuff based off of information, but there's no way you could have.
Remember the feeling you had pulling out of the that place where it was like look both ways. It's those kind of things. You feel it. It's super strong.
More of mine, I feel like a lot of that I get confused though with just second guessing myself. Because I very much get wrapped in, especially when I'm being like very extrovertedly knowledgeable and I'm like, leading a group, leading a project, and I'm planning stuff out based off of what we're looking at and trying to execute a task. I get very insecure and I'm like, there's like a thought in my head that's like, is what I know actually real? Like how do I know that what I know is the proper thing to know, you know?
If you say so.
like everything you know. How are you aware? I'll change it so we're not saying no 15 times. How are you certain that the stuff you have been taught and the information you have absorbed is correct?
That is the theory of Immanuel Kant. Have you studied him
Probably.
yet?
Well,
We
I
only
mean, I
know
know
what we think we know.
we took TOK in the DP
Mm-hmm.
program, and
Mm-hmm.
we had a class called Theory of Knowledge, and it was literally like if you had to sum up that class, it's how you know that what you know is what you know.
Exactly.
And it was exhausting, but it was interesting
Oh,
because
so interesting.
it,
Yeah.
it's but it's really exhausting being like, okay, well this is one thing, and then we're like, but how do you define that one thing? Is this subjective or is this objective? And like, it's fun when you're interested in certain topics, but if you do that with every waking moment, it's fatiguing. Like, I remember we had to give some TOK presentation, and my friend and I actually did a PowerPoint on serial killing, and like I think we did it on morals, but that was really interesting because we went over a whole bunch of serial killers cases and like their pleads for the court cases and like all this stuff. And one person, I can't remember what the case was because it was so long ago, but this is a true story. Somebody who feigned insanity instead of like admitting that they did it, and they just like feigned insanity to be like, oh yes, I did this, but I was insane.
Oh, a
So
lot of
like,
people do that.
yeah, and he ended up getting put into like some mental facility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was. They did a TED talk on this too, because it has to go with the like the psycho the psychopath test. Wow, that was really hard for me to find. Anyways, he got put into like a mental facility of some sort. I'm sure I'm butchering what it is. But when he was there, he all like the nurses diagnosed him with more than just what he pleaded he had, and he found that he couldn't get out because he couldn't convince them that he was sane after a certain point. And at what I remember, the only like real detail I remember from that case is him not wanting to talk about his like personal life was written down as like a sign of like being afraid to socialize or whatever. And he had said like, I think only in a mental facility would not wanting to share your life with psychopaths, like other psychopaths, be and other serial killers, be considered like something wrong
Yeah,
because they're looking for something.
you need to watch the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because that's the whole premise of it. Jack
Is
Nicholson's just great.
the serial killer movie?
Mm-hmm. No, he's not. Sorry to tickle my throat. He's not a serial killer. I think I saw it so long ago. It's from the 70s, probably really dated now, but I think he was a newspaper reporter that was going, he pretended to be what they call cuckoo at the time and to go into this sanitarium and to kind of get the scoop on it. And he didn't want to participate because he didn't think he was insane. And all the doctors analyzed him as being insane and he couldn't get out.
Well, that's a true story, the one that I was telling. It's like a guy who committed a crime and couldn't convince them that he was sane, and he ended up like extending his sentence for like 40 plus years because he couldn't get out of this place.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyways, talking about back to, let us return to our sheep, as the French say. Back to the original point of how do you
I
know that
don't.
what you know is what you know?
Oh, right, right. I'm like,
Um,
what were we talking about?
I often wonder if my intuition, I second guess it because I arrive at a lot of conclusions very fast. And then a little part of me is like, well, how do I know that that's right? Because if I can't explain it with a reasoning, is it
Mhm.
always right? And usually 7.5 times out of 10, I'd say I'm correct. That's like a
I think these are
75%.
two different things. I think you're getting to yours from a cognitive point, and just maybe because you're just smart. You're like, oh,
Oh, yes.
I can jump from A to Z because I don't need all those other letters of the alphabet to go through. I just can get it. And a lot of people can do that. The things that I'm feeling, I they just hit me. I'm not even
Yeah,
thinking
I
about it. I
know.
wasn't thinking to myself, look behind me or anything like that, or yeah, I'm gonna have this kid. Those are just feelings that come.
Well, the more like the one like that I'm thinking of when I'm referring to this is the times when I get worried about eating foods that
Mm.
are like, that might have a peanut in it because if I look on the back and there's nothing there, I'm always like, am I sure about this? Is it something that I'm worried about? Am I paranoid? Am I certain that this is a danger right now because it says that it's fine, but my gut is saying that it's not. And at the end of the day, I decide not to risk it because I'd rather be alive and wrong than dead
Right.
and correct.
That's right. Sometimes it's just some cross contamination, and maybe that's what you're feeling, or maybe
Yeah,
it's
that
just a
could easily
feeling
be
that's
it.
completely wrong feeling. But I would always go with my gut if I felt that kind of thing, for
Yeah,
sure.
I typically do. I've had it at least once where I was like, holy crap.
Okay, I don't know how long we've been here, and this turned into our psychological analysis episode. Who knew?
It's
But
fun. It's
it
so
is fun.
interesting.
I have a trivia quiz that I want to give you just for fun because I like ending on quizzes. I think they're enjoyable. Are you getting back
Hmm.
noise? I'll try not to touch this. I've had mic issues. If you've been with us since the beginning, all of the sound issues have been my fault.
No, not really. It's more like I've been saying, it's more just the fact that we're in from two separate locations and we've been focused on audio and video. So it's just
Yeah,
there's so many cogs and places that things could go wrong where it's not the video, this time it's the audio, and it's not the audio, this time it's the volume, and this time it's the signal, and this time it's the connection. It's just so many different variables.
I know. We may have to stop videoing us just to get the audio. Who knows? We'll
I
see.
think I figured it out. So,
Okay, keeping our fingers crossed. Okay, I have a quiz for you, my darling. Would you like to take a quiz today?
sure.
Okay, I have a quiz, and I've learned from the Beetle quiz that we did in like episode 4 when I choked on that, to print the questions out so they're all printed, and I've actually kind of pre-screened them to make sure that they're not like these really obscure things. But you are living in Britain, you are a
Hmm.
Brit, you are an American, you're dual citizen, and I think you need to know some things about the UK. So I've got a quiz of things that I think you should know, and I want to see if you do know them. All right.
Hmm.
I think there's 10 questions. Oh, and then also each one has a bonus point. So you have the chance of scoring 20 out of 10 on this quiz.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, so first one. Who is the reigning monarch of the UK?
Elizabeth the Second.
Oh, very good. You got them both. I was good. I thought you were going to say the queen. And then part
Oh,
two, the bonus was what is her full name? So yes, it is
for some
Queen
reason, I
Elizabeth.
almost said Victoria, and I was like, that's not right. That's not right. It's because there's a statue in Leeds of Victoria.
Yes, Victoria Leeds. There you go.
Yeah.
Um, and they have very, very nice Victorian architecture there, which is beautiful. So good. You got 2 points on that. Yay, you. Okay. What are the two major political parties in the UK?
Tory, and for some reason, I am drawing a blank on the Labor.
Very good.
I was like, it's an
Okay.
L, but and it's for some, I was like, it's an L, and it's not laundry. That's what my head said.
Laundry.
What political party do you identify with? Laundry party?
Oh,
Thank you very
laundry.
much. I
That's
identify with
funny.
clean clothes and good smells.
Nice. Okay. So your bonus on that is which one is the conservative group and which is the liberal group?
Liberal labor.
Very good. So Tory conservative.
Yes.
Yes. Very good. Good job. This is pretty easy, and I threw this in case you were choking at this point. But where's the capital of England?
London.
London. Okay, and the bonus portion of that is what event destroyed two-thirds of the city in 1666?
Ooh, I know. It was fire.
It was the Great Fire of London. Very good.
Oh, I was thinking it was something to do with the Parliament, but it was a
No,
fire.
no.
I knew that.
Started Yeah, it started in a bakery. Yeah, one of their ovens caught fire and they just everything was made of wood and it was all dry and it just torched two-thirds of the
Oh,
city. Yeah, crazy. Okay, so you're doing great. You've got 6 out of 3 so far. Who is the current prime minister?
Boris Johnson,
Yes, it is. And what the bonus? What is his political party?
Tory.
Very good. Look at you. Eight out of
First, I
four.
panicked because there was a recent election and I didn't really
Yes.
follow it, and I doubted that he was still in office for a split second.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, he is still there. Okay. There are motorways all over the UK.
Correct.
Name three of of the motorways. There's like 50 of them. So name three of them. And I'll give you a hint. They're usually numbered. Most, in fact, they probably all are. And I
Carl,
know
Bob, and Carol.
those are numbers. What is
You
wrong
said
with you?
name three of them. I assigned them names.
Oh. No,
You know
there's
what?
the
I think I deserve a point for creativity there.
there you go. Well, I'm going to cut you some slack because you don't drive there. But there's the M1, the M2, the M3, the M4, the M5, the
The
M6.
A64.
No, an A is an A road, and M is a motorway.
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay.
my bus goes on the A64. That's all I
So
know.
it's an A road. Nice. Okay, well, you can still get a chance to get a bonus question here. Which motorway goes around central London?
The circle one.
It's the ring road.
I don't.
What?
I don't know what it's called.
Oh, the M25.
Okay.
That's
I
okay.
don't live in
No
London.
worries.
How am I supposed to know that?
I know you don't live in London and you don't drive, so that's okay. I'll cut you some slack on that. Okay. There are a lot of train stations all around England. We've talked about this and how easy they are to navigate in a previous episode. Name three of the major train stations in London.
King's Cross, Paddington, and St. Pancras.
Very good. Very good.
Euston is another one, right?
Yep. Euston is. Waterloo, Paddington, Victoria, Charing Cross, and London Bridge are the biggies.
I
There's
said
some other ones.
Paddington.
Yes, you did. And the bonus question there is if you want to get out to Heathrow, which one of the train stations will you go to?
Paddington.
Paddington. Very good. Should catch the Heathrow Express. Okay. Question number 7. You're doing well. The tube is a very common form of transportation in London.
Mm-hmm.
There are 11 tube lines.
Mm-hmm.
Name six of them.
Bakerloo, Hammersmith and City, Circle, District, Metropolitan, Jubilee.
Very good.
Central, Northern.
Yep.
Am I missing any other colors? There's the really tiny blue one that goes like 3 stops. Waterloo.
Waterloo and City. Yep. Which one gets out to Heathrow?
Jubilee. No, sorry, Victoria.
Piccadilly.
Well, Victoria's no Victoria's the one that I'm missing.
Yes, you did miss Victoria. That was the one you didn't say. That's okay. No worries. You did really well on it. I think you got
all
10
of
out
them.
of 11.
I got all.
Yeah.
Of them.
You missed Piccadilly.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I did.
That's okay. Okay, and they're all colored, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you name the color of 3 of the lines? I bet you can name them all.
I could. Bakerloo's brown. Yep. Hammersmith and City's pink. Metropolitan's like a dark pink. Circle is yellow. District is green.
Yep.
Waterloo and City is like it's like a teal.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria's a light blue. Piccadilly's dark blue. Central is red. Northern's black.
Beautiful. You got them all.
Nice.
Nice. You're my kid. Okay. England is doing really well in the soccer right now. They just made it to the final.
They just made it to the finals.
Made it to the final of the Euro Cup, which is amazing. But in England alone, they have Premier League, I guess it's called Premier. Name 3 of the Premier Soccer League teams.
Well, Leeds got moved up to Premier League.
Okay.
So
Leeds United.
Man U.
Yep.
And Chelsea.
There you go. And I have a list of all 20, which is not
I
on this
know.
page.
Oh, yeah, that's it. We won't embellish.
Which ones did you name? You named
Leeds,
Manu.
you,
Oh,
Manu, and Chelsea.
Leeds. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. David Beckham is a celebrity here in America, but he was originally a football player in the UK.
Okay.
You know who David Beckham is?
Sure.
He was married to a Spice Girl, or I think
Okay.
he still is. I don't know. Anyways, what soccer team did he play for?
Man United.
Very good.
Oh, that was a total shot in the dark.
That was it.
Trust
Yeah.
my intuition on that one.
Yeah, he played for a couple teams outside of the UK, but when he was in the UK, it was Man United. Good job. Okay, so the Queen has 6 official residences in the United Kingdom. Name one of them.
Buckingham Palace.
Very good. Can you name any others?
Someplace in Scotland.
No worries. There's Windsor
The
Castle.
camera obscura.
Windsor Castle, Balmoral Castle, Sandringham Estate, Holyrood Palace, and Hillsborough Castle. The bonus question, name one of the 6 that is not in the UK that I just named.
Re-say the names again?
Yes, Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Balmoral Castle, Sandringham Estate, Holyrood Palace, and Hillsborough Castle.
Hollywood Palace.
It's Holyrood, but yes, that's correct.
Did I say Hollywood?
Yeah, that's okay. I know Holyrood's up in Scotland, as is Balmoral, and Hillsborough is in Ireland. So you're doing
another
great.
Shot in the dark.
Look at that. Okay, you've heard of the crown jewels.
Yes.
We've all heard of the crown jewels. Okay, there are 6 pieces to the crown jewels, I think. Name one of them.
The crown.
Very good.
The crown jewels.
There's 2 crowns. There's the orb, the scepter, and the ring. And then there's 2 swords. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. There's 5 pieces. There's 5 pieces. Very good. Bonus question on that. Where are they kept?
I know this. They had it in Sherlock. Let's see, they had a bank, and it wasn't the bank. They had the Tower of London.
That's it. It's in the Tower. Exactly. Very, very good. So you did exceptionally well. Those are my questions. The only thing you didn't get was you got the fire, Prime Minister, the motorways. Yeah. So you got 18 out of 10. 18 out of 10. Well done. How did you do at home?
And 180% success rate.
Nice. Were you following along, and how did you do on our UK quiz? Let us know.
I thought you were asking me for a second. I was like, was I following along? Of course I was.
Did you not hear me answering the question? Yeah, so that's all I got for today. That was a pretty long episode. We got a little on tangents. We may have to divide it into a couple episodes. And that'd be okay. That'd be okay.
If you're joining us on YouTube, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell turned on. If you're listening to us on any podcast streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or any others, welcome. Thanks for being here. We love to have you. Continue to check us out because we'll be here. And we have a lot of socials that you should follow. Facebook and Instagram, both just Girls Across the Pond, and our website with lots of cool blog posts and other fun things, shenanigans, and cute puppy pictures. That's just girlsacrossthepond.com. Any of those, you can chat with us and tell us how you did on the quiz. Tell us some gut instinct intuitions you've had, or if you know what your Myers-Briggs type is, or you don't and you want me to help you figure it out, send me a message on Girls Across the Pond because I'd love to help you. That's fun.
There you go.
You are all puzzles in my mind.
We've got so many cool things coming up. So stay tuned. We've got more than we can do. I would actually like to do this podcast 3 times a week just to keep up with all the material we have. So yeah, definitely stay tuned. And thank you for listening.
See you in our next episode, everybody.